My name is Juliana Nykolaiszyn with the Oklahoma State University Library. Also joining me today is Tanya Finchum. Today is Friday, June 5th, 2009, and we're in Oilton, Oklahoma, interviewing Wanda Foster. This interview is being conducted as part of the Oklahoma Centennial Farm Families Oral History Project. Thank you for joining us today. Basically, we'd like to start by having you tell us how this land came into your family's possession.
Okay, in 1903, the allotments were made with the Indians for the Creek Tribe. And Bill's mother at that time was about 4 or 5 years old, and she got this allotment. It's 160 acres. It runs a mile long and a half-mile wide. And that's how it came into the family. She was just a young girl. She was an orphan at the time.
And what can you tell us about her?
Well, she went, after her parents died, she went to live with some people named Thompson. And the best I can determine is her mother was a Thompson. So it must have been a relative that she and her brother lived with. When she got to high school age, they sent her to Philadelphia to a Presbyterian boarding school, and she took and studied home economics. And when she graduated, she went back to the Eufaula area where she had originally been. And somewhere in there, they brought her up here, and for the first time, she saw her farm. And up to that time, the Indian Agency had more or less managed it and leased it to some cattle raisers, people that raise cattle. And then she returned back to the Eufaula area, and about 3 years later she had married and she came to the farm for the first time. What I don't know is where they lived. There was no house here. I've never heard anyone say where they lived when they came to the farm. But eventually there was it was really a shack down in the field. The foundation is still there, but it was there until 51, and it burnt that year. And so then, where she lived after that, I don't know, for about 3 years, but in 54, her son Bill built her a little house that is no longer here. We tore it down after we finished this house, and she lived there until 1978, and we put her in an assisted living situation because she was not able to stay on the farm by herself. And we moved into her house because we were starting on this house, and we did it more to protect the equipment and the tools and so forth. We were living in Tulsa at the time, so we moved into that little house, and it was little. And we lived there till I moved in this house. My husband died before this house was completed.
And what was her name?
Louise Beartail.
Okay. And when she was running the land at that time, do you know what crops or animals?
Cotton was raised.
Okay.
Now she divorced the first husband, but she had a son, John, or Jack. They called him Jack, but his name was John. At that time, she was married to a Hughes, and she divorced him, and then she married a Foster, a Dallas Foster, and they had one son, William. And Jack, he was always called Jack, but legally he was John Hughes. He was killed in World War II over Czechoslovakia in a plane crash.
So in addition to the cotton, did the children help run the farm with her?
Really, there was some people named Baker that had a little house further back on the farm. And the Baker family, basically, along with Dallas Foster, Bill's father, they raised the cotton. She was more or less just a homemaker.
Would they bring in outside help to help pick the cotton?
I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did, because when It was a big crop here back years ago. And after that, the land pretty well laid idle until about 59. There was 12 oil wells during the oil boom on the farm. The last one was shut down about 3 years ago.
And was she pretty wise with her mineral rights? She didn't sign them over to anybody right away?
No, she kept them. And Bill, her son, there was 2 or 3 times she wanted to sell the farm, and he would not let her. He would not let her sell the farm. She wanted to 2 or 3 times, but he said no. And he kind of got the Indian agency to go along with him, because they had to prove everything.
Well, do you know of any other structures on the land in addition to the little house that was built back in those days?
There was one little barn, and it's been torn down.
And the water source?
Wells, real good wells. We have 2.
Were any animals like pigs or cattle?
She never had any cattle. In 59, Bill and I bought some pulled Herefords and ran them here. But she never had any livestock. She just didn't do much farming. The land just kind of took it. Well, the oil wells, that was her main interest.
Well, when the oil wells were pumping, did the cotton kind of take a back seat?
Yeah, it did. After she divorced Bill's father, not a whole lot happened. She went to Oregon, and I don't know exactly whether she married a man or she was going to marry him, but he was in the lumber business, and they had a cable that went across the Trinity River, and he fell off and drowned. So then she came back to Oklahoma. And as far as Bill and I ever known whether she actually married him or not, we don't know.
How did she come to go to Oregon to start with?
She went to visit some friends. I don't know, actually, I think she said it was a cousin. And she went out there to visit, and she ended up staying several months. And we don't know, she never would say whether she married him or just was going to.
And then she had Bill there were 2 sons.
2 sons.
And that was it.
That was it.
Okay. So at what point did you and Bill come to the land and decide to...
We got married in 59.
Okay.
And we came out here, and the land was just covered with pipe from the oil wells that, just laying on the ground, dead lines. We spent 2 or 3 years gathering up pipe and cleaning up the ground. And the farm was kind of overgrown with Johnson grass, so the cattle, we knew if we grazed it good enough that it would kill it out, which it really did. And we mowed it, and we even baled some of it. But we finally killed it out and got 65 acres that we could produce on. And then we went to alfalfa hay, and we raised alfalfa. Well, pretty well we did it from 59 to 65. And at that time, my husband, his health kind of failed on him. He was in a body cast actually for a year almost. So we rented it out then, because running the balers and everything. And so it pretty well remained rented for several years until probably 80. And then actually, the hired hand and I really run the farm because Bill's health wasn't that he could. And I had a hired hand that started in 78, And he and I completely refenced it because the fences were so bad. And we refenced the whole place and did some terrace work. And so mainly from about 80 on, I was a farmer. And my husband, during the 70s, he was in politics. In 72, he was elected state representative from Tulsa District, and he went to Oklahoma City a lot then. And in 74, he was defeated in the next election. And the next day, David Bourne called him and said, Bill, I want you on my staff. David Bourne had just been elected governor. So Bill went as his administrative assistant. And then, about a year after he became administrative assistant, the state labor commissioner was impeached, and David called on Bill again. He said, I want you to be my labor commissioner. So he served as labor commissioner the rest of David Bourne's term as governor, and then for part of George Nye's term. And he gave that up in 79, I think. Well, he was going to come home to the farm, and he was so used to being in politics and away from the farm, and Chief Cox of the Creek Nation asked him to come and build the bingo hall at Tulsa at 81st and Riverside and manage it. So he built it and managed it until he died in 89.
Nice long career in politics and serving the state.
He was gone because when he got sick in 65, after he got to where he's out of the body cast, he decided to go back to college. So he went to Tahlequah and in 3 years got his degree. And so we bought a trailer house, put it down there, and he lived down there. He actually lived away from me more than he lived with me in all these years, because he had his own house in Oklahoma City. I had a house in Tulsa, and we were building this house. So we always laughed, we were weekend husband and wife, and the rest of the week, heck with it.
Well, while you were serving as the farmer in the 70s and 80s, can you describe a typical day for me?
Yeah, Ed would come at 8 o'clock, and I'd be ready to go, and we worked outside all day. And when we built that fence, there were some days, I think it was 100 degrees, but we were going to get that fence built, and we got it built. And along in there, we built another barn out of the pipe off the farm. And Ed was a real good welder, and he did the welding. He was a real good welder. And we built a cattle barn, actually. And now it's not here anymore. It blew away in 94. We had a tornado here. And it blew that barn away. And blew a whole lot of the fruit trees and big trees that we had away. And a typical day was just working outside. Actually improving the place was more what we did. Built the fences, cleared some more field that wasn't clear. We had a lot of blackjacks growing in a meadow, and we got rid of them. We worked on getting rid of that. We built 2 ponds, stocked them with fish, just all kinds of things. This was a very ugly place in 59 when I first saw it, because it was so overgrown with Johnson grass and so on. And that's what it is today.
Well, it's gorgeous today. Just driving up, it's beautiful.
Well, we work hard at it.
Were the early fences made out of
T-post.
T-post.
Yeah, steel T-post. They were affordable then. Now they're so high, I don't think anyone could build a fence.
Have you walked all 160 acres?
Oh yeah,
You think?
I've been over it all many times.
And do you still have the 160 in the family?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I inherited when Bill died.
Okay. Well, tell me a little bit about the structures on the property today.
Well, there's a machine shed right outside the house here. We built it around 78. It was one of the first big buildings we built because we needed a place to put our tools and our tractors and when we weren't here. So it was actually built before that. It was probably built in 75 because we weren't staying out here then. Bill's mother was here, but you couldn't, we didn't expect her to watch after things. And that's where we kept the machinery and the tools and the equipment. And then my husband was a real antique car buff, so we built a 6-car garage east of there, which he kept antique cars in. And after Bill passed away, I built the big barn in 90, the big rock barn, to match the house. That was my doings. I don't think he would have ever planned on building that barn, but I wanted a barn that matched the house. And when I started getting exotic animals, I needed it for the various animals. So that was my doings to build the barn.
Well, if you could take us through how your interest in exotic animals came about.
Well, I had a friend in California who had exotic animals, and she was coming through and she was taking some animals to an auction in Missouri. So she called, she said, if I fly in, will you go on to Missouri with me? So I said, yeah. So we took my pickup and we went to Missouri, and I had no intention of buying anything. She had shipped by truck some potbelly pigs and some Angora goats and other things that she was selling. So I was going to go watch them sell. Well, here they come in the ring with a little black bear. And I don't know, I just started bidding. And pretty soon sold to the lady in the trench coat up there. And I thought, I bought a bear. I knew nothing about bears, nothing. I didn't know what you fed it. It was on a bottle. It was only like 4 months old. So I come back, I don't even have a license to have a bear. So I had to hustle around, get a license to have a bear and get federal approval and everything. Well, I kept it for about 2 months, and it was so precious, and I thought, this is a little girl bear, I need a boy bear. So I went to another auction and bought a little boy bear, and I named him Huggy and Snuggy. And then I again went to some more auctions, and I just kept buying things, and I had wallabies and nilgai antelopes, and I had coons, and I had apes. I had 2 little Celebes apes that were a nightmare. They were so cute. Celebes apes don't get over 18 inches tall, but they're just like people. I mean, they're just like people. If you do something and they see you do it, they immediately do it. And one of Luke, I named them Luke and Lulu. Luke's favorite thing was, I had a friend that would come over. He worked here sometimes, and he smoked, and he'd blow smoke rings. And Luke thought that was the greatest thing in the world, putting his finger in the smoke rings. Well, one day, David put the cigarette in Luke's mouth, and he right away took a big puff, and he blew, and it wouldn't make smoke rings. And he just stomped his feet, and he was so mad. So every time that David would come, he'd get excited and start jumping up and down. He wanted to smoke. And he learned to smoke. And it was so funny because he was really addicted. But he was only 18 inches tall, little girl. They're in Oregon now. They've had 2 or 3 babies, and I sold them. I sold all my animals in about 90, in the tornado. I still had them in 94. It's about 95, I sold all my animals, except the bears. And I couldn't get rid of them. I was too attached to them.
Well, what would you do with these animals?
Sell the babies to various people.
And did you have a local vet in the area who...
Yes.
And when they looked at these animals, they were like, Wanda,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with this.
Well, you know that they were pretty good at it, really. I had a zebra. I had miniature horses, miniature donkeys. I can't even think of all the animals I had. I had peacocks. I had so many different animals, and one reason I got rid of them is I didn't have any peace and quiet around here. People from everywhere came driving up. I'd look out and there'd be people walking around my yard looking at all my animals. You know, they thought it was just a walk-in zoo, I guess. And also the feed bill was terrifically high, $2,000 a month or so, plus my hired help. Because, boy, I kept those pens shining. I couldn't afford to have a dirty pen and someone walk up and see it. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't have anyway. So it was just very expensive to keep these animals. But you ask about that. I just never had any sick animals. Now, bears have no diseases. And ticks and fleas won't even bother them. It's just real strange.
Lucky.
Wow.
I've never had to have a vet for the bears. I don't know what I'd do if I did. You aren't going to go in and treat them.
So the two bears that you still have, are they your original two?
They're the original two.
Huggy and Snuggy.
Again, Snuggy.
And
And my hired hands call them Ben and Molly. And I don't know why, but Ed was the one that named everything. My hired hand Ed. He came up with some of the darndest names for animals, but he was always naming everything. And so he called them Ben and Molly, but I still call them Huggy and Snuggy. Sometimes I'll forget and I'll even say Ben or Molly.
And how many babies have they produced? Through the years?
35.
Wow.
They a lot of times will have 4. Several times had 4. But out in the wild, a mother bear will usually lose a couple in the cave in the cold because they're not real big milk producers. But because I pull them at 1 month, take them from the mother and put them on bottles and get them ready to go, there's usually one little runt when you pull them at 1 month. But it just in a few days catches on a bottle and it's back up with the rest of them. But you'll usually find one that's just a little bit littler. But if she would have kept them in the cave, she'd have probably lost that one. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But they only weigh 6 ounces when they're born. Now you'd think 6 ounces. You can hold them in your hand. But they grow real fast. And they have hardly any hair when they're born. They're just like a little rat. Well, like a little dog, you know, when it's born. It don't have much hair. But they grow hair real fast and turn real black. And bears have no natural noise, you know, like my adult bears. They don't bark, they don't growl, they have no noise. That's the reason they can slip up on people so easy in the woods. They make no noise. Now my female sometimes will go woof, you know, kind of, but she does it for fun to scare people.
Well, where are some of the places your animals have ended up throughout the year?
Pagosa Springs, Colorado, North Cherokee, North Carolina, Wichita, Kansas, just different places.
Zoos or?
In zoos and in petting zoos and so forth. I like for them to go to a zoo rather than a petting zoo. I feel like they might be abused there.
And have you ever received any special training requests?
I gave a lot of talks on the bears, but as far as training, there's not that many breeders.
Mm-hmm.
There's just very few breeders, so there's no one to talk to about it. I had a man come by the other day from Bristol who wanted to raise bears, and I told him what I knew, you know, and he wants to get into the bear business. It's not a real profitable business. You only get about $500 for a baby bear, so it's very not profitable. It's just a hobby more than anything.
And before we got started, you mentioned that one had gone to Disney World,
Mm-hmm.
and you had to train it to do.
Well, they called and they wanted one, and see, there's a magazine called Animal Finder's Guide, and I know the guy that writes that. So a lot of times he gets calls and people where can I get a bear? Well, he'd give him my name. And I guess he was the one that gave him my name, and they called me. And anyway, they wanted it. They said it will be in a show, and be sure and make sure that it has, if you can, teach it to wear clothes. So we bought little jumpsuits, and it was taught to wear clothes. And they really don't mind. They kind of like it. And a bear, I raised them right here in the house. I set up 4 baby beds, and they had their own bed. And when you feed them, if you'll take them outside, they always do their business within 15 minutes. Twice in all those years, I had an accident. It's because I was washing bottles or something and not watching the time. So they're real. They're not like a dog running around the house and you leave and you have a mess.
Have you ever felt like you were in a threatening position with the bears, like they were going to attack?
No. My doctor laughs every time he sees me because I was putting one of them. They got real sharp toenails, these little babies, and I was putting one in a pet box, and it turned around and, like it's going to argue, it didn't want to go in, and it caught me on the arm, and it cut. I had to go up and have it stitched, but it wasn't a threatening thing. It was just an accident. In fact, I didn't know until I looked down and it had started bleeding that it even cut me. So my doctor laughs about, well, I've done everything now. I've stitched up a bear wound.
Well, let's learn a little bit more about you. Where did you grow up originally?
Okay, I came in Oklahoma. I grew up on a farm. It was a dairy and wheat farm. When I was about 14, I was driving truck hauling wheat because you could back then. I was very active in sports. I was an all-state basketball player in high school. I was a national 4-H garden champion. Very active in high school in lots of things. And then I went to OSU. And then I went to work for Public Service Company of Oklahoma. And that's where I met Bill. He was working there. He ended up being my boss. I didn't like him, so I decided, well, I'm going to get another job. So I took a teaching job at Vian, Oklahoma, and I called him and told him to give him my 2 weeks' notice. And he said, well, good. I'm glad you're quitting. Let's go out to dinner tonight. And I said, I turned to Old May Hardy, a friend of the girl the next day, and I said, the son of a gun asked me to go out to dinner with him tonight. She says, go for a free meal. I said, okay. So I said okay to him. We went out and we had a great time. Started dating him. Well, I'd already signed a contract to teach in Vian for a year, so we dated from Tulsa to Vian all that year, and then we got married in September the next year, and I started teaching in Tulsa. In 1970, I was chosen Outstanding Young Woman of Oklahoma for my many activities. In 2000, I was chosen first place winner in a contest that someone entered me in for Outstanding Senior Citizen. I won the top prize in the nation, and that was a $20,000 reward.
Wow.
And I gave $10,000 of it to the Chamber of Commerce in Oilton because I'm very active with the chamber. And of course, I spent $10,000, or put in savings. So right now, I'm very active in the chamber, in the Farm Bureau, and I serve on the Indian Electric Co-op Board of Trustees. I've done that since 1990. I've been on it 18 years. I've served as president, secretary, vice president, every office. And I'm also right now serving as the state president of the Electric Co-ops of Oklahoma, of the Directors Association. And so I'm currently the state president of that.
So you stay real busy.
Real busy. I helped form the Silver City Fire Department. We had devastating fires here in '96. Everything on this farm of the land burnt. Very bad fires. So a group of us in the community formed the Silver City Fire Department. I served as Secretary Treasurer of that for probably 4 years, and I gave it up because of lack of time. And I was having a conflict of meetings with it and meetings with Indian Electric and my other activities, so I gave that position up. Still do things for them and work with them.
How big of a community is Silver City then?
Well, we recently did a survey around here. There's about 120 homes because we got so many of these 5-acre homes. If you go about 2 miles each way from Silver City, and you just driving down the road, don't look like that, but they're back in the fields or different places, and there's just a lot of homes out here. At one time, I was the only one living on this section. Now there's 3 houses just right here east of me. There's 2 or 3 at the back of behind my place, and then that mess over there on that side of the road. But there's houses everywhere. Our Silver City Fire Department, which covers, probably has 250 homes in it.
Well, tell me a little bit about the farm today. What's going on?
Well, we're still farming hay and grass. There's a meadow at the back, and it's baled every summer. And the front 20 is just more or less kept up like a yard, and we try to keep it almost immaculate. We have 1, 2, 3 ponds on this front 20, and we have a lot of catfish and bass, and I let kids come and farm, and we have a bridge down here that they have weddings on it, and that type of thing. It's more or less just kind of a show place for people. Call me all the time, can we come out and make our wedding announcement picture on your bridge, and so on. And because it is pretty, you know, to be on this bridge and then the water behind you and everything. And that's about all the front's used for, but now the back we do farm and graze some cattle.
Well, tell me a little bit about this beautiful home. Did you design it yourself with your husband?
No, my husband spent 2 years drawing the plans, and that was 76 and 77. We started building in 78. And because we did all of the woodwork, he would measure something and send me to the saw, and I'd cut it. Every once in a while I'd make a mistake. But that's how we built it. And some weekends we might not get a 1-door jam in, or we might not, you know, but it took us, well, from 78, and he died in 89, and I finished it. When he passed away, about a month after that, I said, it's going to be finished. And I just hired everybody I could find to come in and help paint, help do everything, because I was so tired of working on it weekends. And I thought, I'm going to get it done. So I finished, decorated it, and moved in.
What did you teach?
Home economics, and then when home economics went out, I was basically put in charge of helping to design the special education program in the Tulsa Public Schools. So I taught, but I was helping design it too, for 2 years in that. And then they asked me to go to Tulsa Boys Home, which is a home for boys that are juveniles. I went there for 2 years. Then I went to the Tulsa Juvenile Detention Center for 2 years, and I would have probably stayed there, but they moved it out of the Tulsa School District when they built at Sand Springs, the new boys' home. So that meant I'd had to go to the Sand Springs school system, so I went to Webster High School and taught history and some special ed there the rest of my teaching time.
And you said you graduated from Oklahoma A&M.
Uh-huh.
Tell us what year.
58.
And that was in home economics, or
It
was
was
it
home
in?
economics. But later I went back and got a counseling degree, master's, and a master's in home economics.
From OSU.
No, I got them from Northeastern. What I did is I went down at night, took night classes while my husband was in college, and then
Well, all that time while you were teaching, you would just come to the farm for weekends or to visit your
just
mother-in-law?
weekends, yeah. Worked weekends.
Did you ever spend holidays on the farm?
No, the house that she lived in was so small that we just drove back and forth to Tulsa.
Okay.
It was only about 40 miles.
Is there a significance to this room?
Indian room, that's supposed to represent, that's what he designed it as a Indian council room. And that's the reason the ceiling is the way it is.
And multiple sides.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Well, as we move forward, looking at the next 100 years for the Centennial Farm, what do you see happening to the land?
That is a problem. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've got it willed right now to two people to sell. I think the only thing they could do is sell it. Because I really don't have anyone I really need to give it to. So I don't have any nieces and nephews to give it to. And so I really probably will, well, I've told those two to sell it and divide the money up with, give some to the hired hands. I've designated how much, and what's left is hers. That's about the only thing I could do. I don't have anyone to really will it to, but these people have been good to me.
Have you had the same help for years and years?
Yes, Ed has been with me since 78, and Dean, the one that's working today, has been here since 94.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, they're very faithful. Dean would do anything for me. Ed would too. And Ed part-time works at Webco in Tulsa, and he's working there today, but he'll be back Monday.
Well, talk a little bit for us how this area has changed, because, you know, where we are now, it's really changed through the years.
It really has, because it was the oil field and back then, and Silver City used to be a city. It still appears on the map, Oklahoma map, but there's nothing there except two churches. One was a black church, and the other was a Free Will Baptist. Now, the black church, I have a feeling, is pretty well closed because the family, there was a Moore family of black people. They've all died in the last 2-3 years, so I don't think anything's going on at that church. But the Free Will Baptist Church up there is pretty active. But there was 2 grocery stores. Basically, it was hit with a tornado in '59. One blew away and was never built back. There was a car lot. There was lots of things there. But when the tornado hit in '59, it pretty well did Silver City in.
Do you know why it was called Silver City?
Who knows? I don't think there was any silver there. But really don't know. But as you'll find, this part of the country, when the oil boom, it was people from everywhere were here. Oilton had a population of over 5,000. People just put tents and shacks up anywhere because of coming in to work in the oil fields. And I really think that the house, and I can't swear to it, that Bill's mother lived in here on the farm, was probably here when she came and was a oil field house. And it was, I kind of think that that might have been where she had to live, because I never asked her, never thought to, when she came up here, to move up here, where they lived. But I kind of think that the foundation that's down there in the field is the remnants of a house that might have been an oil field house.
At one point, did you start cleaning up the old oil equipment on the land?
Yes, we spent months doing that.
And around what time?
59.
59.
Right
Okay.
after we were married, We bought a little Ford tractor and some chain, and a welder, and we cut, or we'd unscrew them, because they just went all over. You couldn't have farmed this place if you'd have wanted to.
And what would you do with the material?
We used it to build fencing and barns. The barn out here is built from the pipe. The one that blew away was built from that pipe. The fence along the east side, my garden fence, is all done with that pipe that we pulled out of the field.
Well, that's good to see. We've noticed lots of reuse of materials on a lot of the farms we visit, so it's good to see that.
Yeah.
You mentioned a little bit of terracing. Have you gone into any other conservation efforts here on the land?
No, I've served on the conservation board of Creek County, but the ponds to stop washing.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the biggest thing, because we built them in ditches or places that wash pretty bad. There's a big creek that runs through the farm, and it needs attention, but I don't know what to do to it because it's just so deep and big. And the water, if it really rains upstream, it comes down through there like a river and dumps into Buckeye and then into Keystone. And if Keystone is full of water, real full, it backs up to the edge of my farm through Buckeye Creek.
Is the creek always have some water in it?
Mm-hmm.
Some.
There's some springs that kind of feed it.
And she chose wisely, or she didn't choose. They chose for her.
They chose for her.
They chose for her.
Uh-huh. No, she was very fortunate because in the 30s they built the Highway 51 past here. And that really got it out of the dirt roads and so on.
Yeah.
And it really needs to be rebuilt now. It's pretty bad.
Do you recall any extension agents or home demonstration agents coming around?
She belonged to Home Demonstration Club all those years. But I have not. Oh, I've dealt with them a little bit down in Creek County with going down and getting information and stuff. But there's no clubs or anything around anymore.
Did she have her own garden too, and canned and do that?
Yeah, she did raise a garden.
Would she have any favorite recipes that she would always have on standby whenever you come
Every
visit?
time we came, she had fried chicken.
Really?
She always had fried chicken. Yeah, that was kind of a laugh of ours, but it was the best fried chicken in the world, though. She could really fry chicken, and she had some Indian recipes that were very good. Fried corn, and I don't reckon but she could fry corn better than anybody. It was raw corn off the cob, scraped and fried. I've tried it, don't work. I never could get it. Master, I'd stand there and watch her, and I'd just go home and try it, and mine wouldn't turn out like hers.
Did she raise her own chickens then if she had fried chickens?
No, but she just knew how to fry chicken. I mean, she really knew how to fix fried chicken. And we always laughed, well, we're going out there this weekend. We'll eat fried chicken while we're there. But she always cooked for us because we was always out working. She'd cook for us and we'd come in and eat and then go back to work.
Well, whose idea was it to move back to the farm? Yours or your husband's?
Oh, I think we always did intend to. When she got to where she couldn't take care of it because we didn't want to let it just lay idle. I think it was just an automatic almost. We sold his house in Oklahoma City. We sold my house our house in Tulsa, and moved out here in '78. Moved into her little house when she moved out.
And is there a family cemetery on the lot, or are they?
No, there's Brook Cemetery about a half mile from here up on the hill.
towards Silver City?
No, the other way.
Other direction.
The other way.
Would Louise quilt?
Yeah, she made a couple. Now, I quilt like crazy. I've made 15 this winter.
Wow.
12 the winter before. And I give them all away. I don't have a one right now to give away.
Not even one to show us.
I got one on my bed. But, just like we had a girl hurt in a car accident. So right away, Wanda, you got a quilt? So I took a quilt into the bank and they set it up and sold chances on it to help pay for her accident. I've done that twice this year, give quilts. And then if people do nice things for me, they get a quilt. And there's a lot of people around that have quilts.
You do them all by hand or you do machine?
No, I quilt them on a machine, and then I have a lady that quilts them. In fact, she's got 8 at her house now I'm supposed to pick up of the ones I made last winter. But I give them away.
In your spare time.
Yeah. And then I do a lot of cross-stitching that there on the fireplace. And all throughout the house, there's a lot of cross-stitch I've done. I love to sew.
Well, with homemade background, I would.
Yeah, I really like to sew. And I like to garden with my 4-H gardening background. We have a beautiful garden this year. And we went a little exotic. We bought some exotic green beans. They're supposed to grow 36 inches long. And we bought those giant pumpkins. They're supposed to get big, and they're growing. I don't know if they'll make or not, but we just decided to go a little bit exotic along with the regular things.
You'll
And
have
we
more
give-
visitors.
I don't freeze anything or keep anything. We give it away. Like I'll take a basket full of cucumbers into the beauty shop and say, give them to your customers, or we just give everything away. Tomatoes, everything.
Well, it's great to see that agriculture is still very much in your blood. And
Oh, it'll always be.
you have such a passion for the land.
And we raise pretty flowers there. This year, we got those 22 days of rain, and it is so dry. Right now, we're having to water everything. And flowers are not coming out like they usually do.
What are your future plans?
Stay here.
Keep the bears as long as.
Well, there's no need to move. I'll just stay here as long as I'm able to.
Quite attached to the land.
Oh, yeah, I love it here. Just love it.
Were family members ever born out here on the farm?
Just Bill. He's the only one that's been born here.
So that's quite impressive back in the old days.
Yeah, he was born here in 1930.
So they probably didn't even have electric.
Oh, I don't think they did. I'm sure they didn't. Let's see. No, they wouldn't have had.
That's impressive. Now, you personally, you stay quite busy. Can you talk a little bit about your work with the Indian Electric Co-op and how you got elected? And
Okay, I was approached by some of the employees. They wanted someone to represent this district, and they came and asked me to run. I thought, oh gosh, I don't know. And so I ran, and I won by 4 votes. And I've served on that board. I will complete 18 years this October that I've been on that board, serving in every capacity from president to secretary, vice president, and head of the steering committee. And following that, or while that's 2 years ago, I was elected to the presidency of the state co-ops, statewide, and there's 28 co-ops in Oklahoma.
wow.
I'm now serving as president for the State Association, Directors Association, which I'm the first woman to do that. I was the first woman on the board of directors at Indian Electric, and so I broke some ground. Now someone will follow me.
Well, it's great because now throughout the co-ops in the state, there are more women who are serving.
There are 3 more that I know of.
But still, that's a small number.
It's a very small number. It's a good old boys club in lots of ways. But I feel like I have the respect, evidently, of all the men because of getting elected to that office.
Well, we talked a lot about your farm today and some of the things you're doing. Is there anything else you'd like to add that we haven't asked you about?
I don't think so. I have prepared you some information and pictures that you can take with you, and it might help answer some questions.
All right. Well, we definitely appreciate your time today and contributing to our project.
All right.
Thank you very much.